It's, we go
That's next to
inland that way, the same latitude.
As Nalanda.
No, Yolanda's higher up. Yolanda is there.
Nalanda's further
With
north.
the Norris, right? Yolanda would be here, the biggest city would be, Norris, Varanasi.
So, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Tibet Center. We will begin by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West by Yongzin Rinpoche, by the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. And for all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. A Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth. For there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good Guru, son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for a refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. For as long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, we've been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And we have reached page 54. And His Holiness has been first introduced us to the idea of recognizing that just as we wish to be happy and wish not to be suffering, each and every other sentient being wishes to be happy and wishes not to suffer. And that's a very important establisher of the equanimity necessary to work towards developing compassion and assuming responsibility to others. If you don't develop that sort of equal attitude towards all sentient beings, you will always have a closer feeling of responsibility towards those whom you are close to, whom you care about, and less feeling of responsibility towards all those whom you consider to be neutral, the sort of mass of people, and even less responsibility towards those who you dislike, people who cause you problems. And so that initial establishment of equanimity is important. And I repeat this all the time. I think I have a quote from whatever worldly joy there is arises from wishing for others' happiness. whatever worldly suffering there is arises from wishing for your own happiness. These little, I don't know, thoughts, this and the recognition that just as we wish for happiness, others do, are things that we have to really work at cultivating in ourselves constantly. They should be the meditations that we do. Good evening. That we do constantly. We shouldn't sort of think, "Oh, I've done that." These are the thoughts that we have to cultivate through even what? Good evening. So these thoughts that we have been discussing for the last not just weeks but months, we've been discussing for years, and they are, some may say, yeah, all right, we've already done that. That was towards the beginning of the book, this idea that just as we wish to be happy and wish not to suffer, others do. This is something we should do every morning. When we start our day, we should begin by thinking that just as I wish to be happy and don't wish to suffer, this person next to me wishes to be happy and wishes not to suffer. Just as I wish to be happy and wish not to suffer, so does, and we must really work at doing this with individuals, not just masses. Oh, all others wish to be happy and wish not to suffer just the way I do. No, it has to be specific. It has to be a real recognition that what motivates me in my attempt to avoid suffering and to attain those things that I wish for, that's the same thing that motivates each and every other person. Then this recognition that it is out of a sense of responsibility towards others, care for others, that we derive our happiness. It is, and all of the difficulties that we face are the result of our selfish, self-centered thoughts and actions. So I think it's really important to really emphasize the fact that these thoughts should accompany us. If they don't accompany us in our daily lives, then this talk of developing our hearts and developing compassion and developing, it's just talk. The way we actually develop compassion, the way we actually develop a greater than compassion, bodhicitta, the assumption of responsibility towards all others, and the determination to actually work towards the attainment of Buddhahood in order to fulfill that responsibility, that won't mean anything. That's all based on working at developing this attitude constantly. So His Holiness introduces the idea that we are dependent on the kindness of others. We are dependent on the compassion shown to us by others. We are dependent on the support of others. And so our happiness, our well-being is totally dependent on others. From when we are born through the entirety of our lives. And he goes so far as to say that even at the end of our lives, it is the support that we gain from others that provides us with the peace of mind that enables us to pass away with calm. But more important than that wonderful or the love shown to us by others, compassion shown to us by others, is the love and compassion that we show towards others. We gain greater happiness from that. The most solid basis for our happiness is the kindness that we show towards others. So that's His Holiness is leading us up to that, and he's saying that the this attitude of love and compassion and devotion to helping others is not a religious thing. It's something natural. It's something that non-religious people have. It should be a natural form of responsibility towards others, and that's what he is saying. Where we reached last, and here I'll say, with global media transmitting news at such speed, we have a deeper awareness of the interconnectedness of people everywhere. Together with this, people's concern for humanity as a whole and their recognition of the value of basic human rights seem to be deepening as well. To me, this trend is a source of great optimism about the future. Having this kind of concern for all our fellow humans does not require us to be any kind of special person or saint. On the contrary, this universal compassion is within the grasp of each of us. During the Nazi dictatorship, some Germans went to great lengths to protect and save Jews, at a serious risk to their own lives. When asked why they had done it, most of them answered that they had felt compelled and that anyone would have done the same in their situation. Yet these were just ordinary people like you and me, with compassion, a concern for fellow human beings. Everyone is capable of similar acts of heroism. Some readers may still feel resistant to the idea of universal compassion. While admiring such an outlook in others, they may feel that adopting it themselves would entail taking on the woes of the world, and that they have no room for all the additional suffering in their lives. In a limited sense, it is true that caring for others involves sharing in hardships that are not our own. However, the discomfort that comes from sharing the pain of others is of quite a different order from the direct experience of our own suffering. When you empathize with someone who is in distress, you may initially feel some mental discomfort, but having voluntarily chosen to open yourself to the difficulties that other person but having voluntarily chosen to open yourself to the difficulties that other person that other person shows courage, and courage imparts confidence. By contrast, when the pain is your own, you have no such freedom of choice. The difference is clear. So, I remember I used to volunteer in the hospital. What was it called? The Rehabilitation Center, NYU, yeah, Rusk Institute, and I taught. It was called recreational therapy, photography. And there were people who had had accidents, and there were people who had had strokes, and we developed. It was actually fun. It was an enjoyable situation, and there were people who really couldn't move, but we would together work at creating these photographic, what would you call them, projects. We would photograph, let's say, a vase with flowers, and we would have lights, and some of them couldn't move, so that they would say, put the light over there, and we would create what we all agreed was the picture. And I remember Rinpoche asking, Chunglan Rinpoche, wanting to come and watch, and he sat in the back at the end. He said, there wasn't very much suffering there. If I were working in a hospital, I would work in the emergency section. I couldn't handle that.
He likes his suffering strong.
So that put me in my place. But then I was going to be away for a while, and I have a friend who's a photographer, and I asked him if he would fill in for me. And he said, Nikki, you know, some of us are not really interested in doing this kind of thing. And it was a sort of surprise to me, that because it was really, I definitely was enjoyed this process. And it was interesting. Eventually, the hospital asked me to come on. I was doing it as a volunteer, and they asked me to come on staff. And so to go on staff, I had to go through the training that you have to care for people in a hospital. And at the end of it, the guy in charge of my boss said, okay, now he had taught me how to go upstairs and do things with wheelchairs. And then he said, okay, now you sit in the wheelchair and you wheel yourself around. Go through doors that open out, doors that go open, and just feel the difficulty of doing that, so that you know. And so I did that for like a few hours, going through the what are they called, the hallways of NYU, and then came back to him in the wheelchair, and he said, okay, now go outside in the wheelchair. And it was very interesting to go outside and experience how people look at you, and how people react to you, well, so all of these things with practice, with work, you become familiar, and you assume a feeling of responsibility that grows. And so I, as I read this, I thought of that. When you empathize with someone who is in distress, you may initially feel some mental discomfort, but having voluntarily chosen to open yourself to the difficulties of that other person shows courage, and courage imparts confidence. By contrast, when the pain is your own, you have no such freedom of choice. The difference is clear, and that's something that I had to remember. Though mine was like an experience of what it might be like, I was not experiencing the difficulties that the patients were. Furthermore, although compassion arises from empathy, the two are not the same. Empathy is characterized by a kind of emotional resonance, feeling with the other person. Compassion, in contrast, is not just sharing the experience with others, but also wishing to see them relieved of their suffering. Being compassionate does not mean remaining entirely at the level of feeling, which could be quite draining. After all, compassionate doctors would not be very effective if they were always preoccupied with sharing their patients' pain. Compassion means wanting to do something to relieve the hardships of others. And this desire to help, far from dragging us further into suffering ourselves, actually gives us energy and a sense of purpose and direction. When we act upon this motivation, both we and those around us benefit still more. Do you want to close this? However, since universal compassion involves gradually expanding one's circle of concern until it finally embraces the whole of humanity, it needs constant cultivation. Using our intelligence and our conviction of its necessity and value, we gradually learn to expand and extend our concern, first to our close family, then to all those with whom we come into contact, including, especially, our enemies, then to our entire human family, and even to all beings. Okay.
The key word is necessity and value to motivate yourself to do it. Think about it. It's needed in the world, and it's valuable to me and to them. That's a big motivator.
Necessity, or I have to repeat what you say because I've heard that people who hear us online can't hear the questions or the comments.
The two, just say necessity and value. That's something to think about if you want to develop it. Rinpoche used to say the benefits of developing, the faults of not having it. The usual
Necessity and
value of compassion. Necessity of it because people are suffering. You were suffering. So it's necessary in the world. And then the value of it, the benefit you derive from it, to develop yourself spiritually. So it's not such a drag to help people. Something I'm supposed to do that. You don't overthink.
So you realize that you benefit from it.
Yes, because we are selfish, you know, so there is benefit, eternal benefit. Yeah, it's gonna change you, I think.
I see something here that's very interesting, and it touches upon last week's conversation. It says here, first we meditate to our close family, then to all those whom we come into contact. So that when we focus on the four immeasurables of love, compassion, joy, equanimity. So if I'm focusing on compassion, first focus on the easy ones first. Focus on your family, focus on the people that you like, and then expand later on in your meditation to people that are suffering greatly and it's difficult to relate to them. Is that what I'm reading here?
well, but specifically, start with specific people. Don't start generally. Start with this person whom I love and care for, this person, one person at a time, and then
As I expand further, I can focus on Prime Minister Netanyahu. But later on, not a starting point.
yeah.
And when you think through people's suffering, different people suffer from different afflictions or different circumstances. So you kind of think through all the causes that made them have that particular suffering. I find that particularly helpful. It
Not
makes it
just
more
the
complicated.
causes, but think of the effects
Right.
of what that they will experience as a result of.
And also the things that, you know, if it's somebody I know well, the things that I can do to help reduce that suffering or help them change what those causes and effects are.
So here, what I think is we should think about is that compassion is an attitude. Compassion is the actual compassionate feeling that we're working at developing is one that wishes to remove the suffering of others. And this, and we're working on, when we're developing compassion, is that attitude. Based on that attitude, we then act on it. But we're initially working at really recognizing, initially in meditation, recognizing, as I said the other day, recognizing our own suffering. Because unless we truly understand our state of suffering, the natural state of suffering in samsara that we are experiencing, we will pay lip service to the suffering of others. So that's essential. And out of that, and out of a recognition of our dependence upon others for everything, we actually develop that true wish to remove their suffering. It'll be a real natural product of that thought process.
And it's a proactive responsibility. His Holiness was talking about responsibility.
Yeah, and so out of that attitude will come not just, I wish to remove their suffering, but
I'll do something.
thought to how I can most effectively do it, and most importantly, what I must do in order to gain the ability to truly be beneficial to others. I mean, His Holiness is presenting it here in a secular way. In our the ideal of the Buddhist path is the generation of bodhicitta, the generation of a responsibility towards others, the generation of the determination to attain the ability to fulfill that responsibility.
This is how we develop a meaningful life, which His Holiness always mentions. It's important to have a meaningful life, purpose. So if we focus on helping other people's problems or seeing how we could make other people happy, and we actually do it, we feel more interconnected and we feel more meaningful.
But it's important to approach that responsibility with the humility that recognizes how limited we are, and that works not at sort of badly helping others, but works at developing truly wise and able, effective methods for helping others. And within a Buddhist context, that would be the basis for our aiming towards attaining enlightenment, to most effectively help others. And there are some who are going to say, yeah, but I mean, if I wait until I attain enlightenment to help others, that's going to take 3 incalculable eons during which I can't help. No.
Just do the best you can now.
Do the best you can now, and if you truly, objectively view the situation and recognize your inability to be truly effective.
Does that touch upon skillful means?
No, what I'm leading to is this becomes the determination to, let's say, sit and study. This becomes the determination to sit and meditate. This becomes the determination to engage in a practice that will develop your wisdom, that will develop your commitment to the steps necessary to really be of benefit to others. In the meantime, help as much as you can, but recognizing that we are limited, that we truly are limited, and that when we read about the qualities of a Buddha, the skillful means that a Buddha is able to employ to help others, they are all based on the Buddha's attainment of a certain level that we can't do anything to help others. I mean, we are very, very limited in our ability to help others. But some of us provide good water and enzymes and thank you.
I used to, there's that AA saying, and I used to say that to myself sometimes because it was extremely helpful. I can't remember it all, I wasn't a member. But if anybody, God give me,
AH.
pardon me?
What did you say, AH?
AA.
Oh, AA.
But give me the
Steps, yeah, 12
skills,
steps.
give me the skills to deal with it. What was that part of the saying?
We need a helper. We went to a couple of meetings years ago now. I think she's gone the other night. And there's a whole layout. You can't do it alone. You need God's help in all this.
No, but
Change
and the wisdom to
Wisdom to
know.
know the difference.
And there was that part of it.
Or recognize what I can change.
Oh, right.
Well, that used to give me great, when I could remember it in full, but that used to give me very much the Buddhist thing in that, because Buddha knows I have no skillful ways, and so I just pray for that someday, but
No, we must do more than praying for that someday. We have to work towards it.
I'm glad that, as you said it, yes. I've worked towards it, so maybe that's why I forgot the AA saying, and now I work towards it, because it's very humbling thinking of it that way.
In Buddhism, when we talk about wisdom, is it from wisdom that we attain through meditation, or is it wisdom that we attain through life experience? How do you, in what context does Buddhism refer to wisdom?
So the main handicap or inhibitor to our attainment of enlightenment is our belief in self, our grasping at self, our cherishing of that self that we grasp. That is our main handicap in our progress along the spiritual path. And the main practice is one of diminishing our self-cherishing and arriving at a point where we diminish our self-grasping and ultimately recognize that there's no self. Wisdom is a recognition of no self. The basis for our attainment of freedom from suffering, from cyclic existence, is a wisdom that recognizes no self. The basis for our attaining the full enlightenment of a Buddha is a realization of no self. So wisdom is that realization of no self.
We just read in the book, where His Holiness mentions wisdom and compassion. So
Wisdom is the realization of emptiness, the realization of selflessness, and compassion is the development of the heart and the actions that come out of that.
So in helping other people in a situation, you develop the understanding of wisdom of the no self. And then
No, we
at the
have to
same
work
time,
on, these are separate tasks. We have to work at developing wisdom, and we have to work at developing the method aspects of our
they're
practice.
here, aren't they?
They work together, and we have to work at bringing them together. They are considered, in our pursuit of Buddhahood, they are considered like the two wings of a bird, but they are separate wings.
Okay.
Eventually, we can come to recognize emptiness within our actions. And emptiness, the meaning of emptiness is not, nothingness. It's not a void of some sort. Emptiness itself means dependent arising. It is, whether it's in whatever the basis for our recognition of emptiness is dependent, and it is dependent on parts. It is dependent on there are different aspects of dependence.
Give an example of wisdom in your life, when your action is motivated through wisdom. I'm trying
So-
to make it tangible.
Can I phrase it in another way?
Sure.
Which is, you talked about knowing the best way to help a person. So that, there is a wisdom which skillfully knows the best way to help a person. And then there's the wisdom which knows the emptiness of their existence. So how are those connected?
So I'm going to go back. I'm going to there is this book. When we talk about the emptiness of this book, so I have a book in my hand, and the book is made up of a lot of pages and a cover, right? And we know that none of us have any doubt about the fact that I'm holding a book. Anyone have any doubt about the fact that I'm holding a book? And yet, the cover is the cover of the book. It's not, the cover is not the book. And this page is not the book. And this page is not the book. And page is not the book. And if I go through, I'll find that there's no book.
Okay.
There are a bunch of parts, and we name those parts book. And not only do we name all these parts of book, but when we view the book, all these parts, we actually see a book there. There is an appearance of a book, but there's no book. So the recognition of there not being a book is the wisdom aspect. So thinking about that, bringing that into our perception of things is one thing. In our actions, when we give, the whole idea of giving is an action, a virtuous action. But giving is dependent on the different aspects. You have to have a gift in order to give. You have to have the person whom you're giving. So all of those different parts are the basis for giving.
Giving a donation selflessly or anonymously, that's wisdom.
No, giving, the wisdom would be recognizing the emptiness of inherent existence of the act of giving. Seeing that giving depends on the person you're giving the gift. Given that giving is dependent on these different parts, recognizing that interdependent quality of giving would be the wisdom aspect
So
of that.
it's good karma to give charity, but you give on a...
No, we're not even bringing those attitudes in.
Right, so we know it, but we're not motivated by it. We just do the good deed of helping another person.
So the good deed of helping another person, the mere good deed, would be not part of the wisdom aspect. It would be part of the method aspect. Now, Mark is bringing in, does a certain wisdom come into the picture in recognizing the most skillful way by means of which you could benefit others? That's what you're asking. I don't know that within the sort of strict delineation of wisdom and method, that would be on the wisdom side. I think that in our culture, that we would say that that's a wiser way of giving than to, but
Conventional wisdom of
Yeah, I think so.
But there's a path towards wisdom. Right?
So now I'm talking as someone from a particular tradition. The path towards wisdom is a path of studying and understanding the coarser or less subtle views of selflessness, and then eventually, thereby, coming to a better understanding of the ultimate view. I'm giving you the
But in the tradition, aren't there more than one kind of wisdom is referred to?
Okay, well now you're getting technical about. So, for example, do you want to tell us the different forms of wisdom?
Well, swift wisdom, accomplishing wisdom, the wisdom of debating.
Could you repeat that again?
Swift wisdom, accomplishing wisdom, the wisdom of debate.
Wisdom of being able to compose texts.
Okay.
I think one more.
So, you're talking about categories contained within the Lamrim, but here we are talking about. I mean, I think that the answer to Joseph's question is that the line between wisdom and method is really within the method aspect. We would put the sort of practical ways of helping others.
Altruism.
Altruism.
Yes.
I have a question about, I don't understand if you look at the book and you functionally understand the pieces and parts, when the wisdom, you translate the emptiness into, yourself, which I obviously not experienced, but I don't understand how that knowledge frees one and transcends into suffering. Like, why is that even wise? It just seems like an understanding, and I don't understand
So-
the wisdom, why it's wise.
All of our suffering, all of our pain, all of our afflictions, all of our sort of negative thoughts or negative thinking processes are the result of a belief in a self. Take something like attachment or desire or anger or pride or jealousy, or any of those things stem from a sense of me. I am jealous of the person who does better than me or has more than me. I am angry when things don't go the way I want them to go. I desire something. So all of that comes from the sense of me. If through your study and then meditation, you come to actually recognize that there is no me, there's no basis for any of that.
Same way.
Then it lessens the afflictions because it's not.
It dissolves the afflictions. There's no basis for the afflictions.
Suffering doesn't exist because there's no, I cognitively, I understand the reasoning. I just, don't understand why the reasoning doesn't lead to the actualization of understanding.
It does.
You just do it
Takes a while.
over and over,
Yeah.
proclivity wear down. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can't just, we've just talked about it. We have to study it, and we have to understand the sort of logical basis for there not being a self. We then have to develop an experience of it. We have to actually develop and emptiness of self, this lack of self, is not something that we can see directly. It's not like I can see my glasses case in front of me. here. My recognition of the lack of self is something that I have to infer. So the inference comes about as a result of a real understanding of the logic. And through inference, you if you can recognize that because you are made up of parts, there cannot be an intrinsically existent you, because intrinsic existence is contrary, is the antithesis of something made up of parts. That independent quality of intrinsic existence is the contrary of the dependence upon parts. Independent and dependent are. Therefore, since I am made up of parts, I can't be an independently existent entity. That logic, if I really focus on it in meditation, after having really clarified it intellectually, will bring about an inference of the emptiness of self. Once we have that inference of the emptiness of self, we then have to, through calm abiding, through focused meditation, hold our minds on that to the point where we're not thinking about it intellectually, we are experiencing the emptiness of self. At that point, we have a direct realization of emptiness, not based on inference, but experiential. That totally destroys the basis for cyclic existence, our experience, or our what we call it, dwelling within cyclic existence. There's no me, I've recognized, I've experienced the lack of self. That's how I understand it.
That experiential awareness, does that touch upon wisdom?
That is wisdom.
Okay.
Also, maybe important to say that you experience that not being there in the meditation, but when you come out of it, it's a very long process for the appearances not to still appear as inherent existence, and that the self-cherishing mind is actually eventually, the lack of the self-cherishing mind is eventually what helps us dissolve those appearances and be a Buddha.
So, for those of you who haven't heard Mark, once we have the initial direct realization of emptiness in our meditation and we experience the lack of self, when we come out of our meditation, we continue to perceive phenomena as existing inherently. We perceive them that way. We know that they don't, but their inherent existence continues to appear to us. Slowly, as we make our way through the grounds of realization of emptiness, we arrive at a point where that appearance, we can see the appearance, and we can also see the emptiness. We see conventional existence, and we also see its emptiness simultaneously.
As a Buddha.
That's the attainment of Buddhahood.
Only
Yes.
a Buddha.
Only a Buddha can see them both at the same time. Yes.
Only a Buddha can get really heavy duty about it, but I like to think that for us normal folks, relax a bit and have a little more space and not be so self-grasping.
What, you mean in the process?
Yeah, because
Every step is important. We mustn't think that any step is unimportant in the steps towards the attainment of enlightenment. Every single step is vital. Absolutely. And we won't reach the ultimate step unless we go through all the steps that lead there.
it is amazing though. I mean, you know, you think there's no chance I could ever get to that level, but then you look at yourself and, okay, I look at myself and I compare myself to 10, 15 years ago as a practitioner. It's like, wow, I really have loosened up a little tiny bit, just, but it's really amazing.
And we're all still here, struggling away.
That's right, yeah. As you just said, three eons.
Three incalculable.
Ah,
That's all it takes for the bus to come.
So all of these things, these conversations and these thoughts are important. But what's really important is sitting and studying and really getting our minds around these concepts. And also really working at developing a feeling of responsibility towards others. Working towards developing our wisdom with the motivation of compassion is very important. Simply working towards wisdom leads eventually to freedom from cyclic existence. But when our pursuit of wisdom is motivated by compassion, responsibility towards others, that's what leads to the omniscience of a Buddha.
So method and wisdom is a pair, so we practice the method to realize emptiness and to obtain wisdom.
We practice the compassion, we practice the method, and we work on the wisdom.
To realizing wisdom.
Well,
Emptiness and wisdom.
we're here in what we're talking about, we are working towards developing a feeling of responsibility towards others. In the process, we work at developing wisdom.
Wisdom realizing emptiness.
Wisdom realizing emptiness. Yes.
Lawrence did the school.
So,
It aims.
so your homework for next time, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of wisdom.
How many pages?
There will be no exam.
Sherry mentioned the two friends who passed away, the two names.
Well, oh, yeah,
Yeah, so we're gonna say the prayer now, that's all.
yeah. Oh, today?
Now, right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Who are they? Sherry has two names, so recite them.
Yeah, two people close to me, have recently died within the last 4 or 5 weeks. Pratik Dasgupta, who is Bangladeshi guy with community organizing all over Jackson Heights. And a very close friend of mine, which I talked to his wife day before yesterday, Jiwan Shrestha, if any of you know who he is. Wonderful artist, wonderful person, wonderful everything. He was waiting for many years for a double kidney transplant. But it was very slow, and then something else happened that I don't want to go into because I
What's his
talked to
name?
his wife about some heart problem that developed separately from the
What's he called? Diwan?
Jiwan Shrestha.
Jivan.
So we've been asked to pray for Jiwan Shrestha and who was the first one?
Pradeep Dasgupta.
Pradeep Dasgupta.
There's a question.
Oh,
It's
mhm.
related.
Go ahead.
Will one only truly understand emptiness only if one achieves the state of Buddhahood or Arhat?
No, you can work at developing an understanding of emptiness, and slowly but steadily through your study, you will develop a deeper and deeper understanding, a more and more subtle understanding. There are 4 schools of thought. Each will lead you to a deeper and more subtle understanding of emptiness, and eventually you will develop an understanding of the ultimate view of emptiness, of inherent existence, and then you work at applying this to yourself. You apply it to phenomena, you apply it to yourself. So you can develop an intellectual understanding of it quite quickly, and then you can deepen that into a deeper realizational understanding over years and lifetimes. And you can have a true experience of it long before you attain Buddhahood, when you have an inferential experience of it, and then that develops into a direct realization. And then you go through the 10 grounds of a bodhisattva, deepening and the consciousness of experiencing that emptiness, getting more and more profound or subtle, to the point where after the 10th ground of the bodhisattva you attain the path of no more learning, which is the state of Buddhahood.
Is that part of what you mean by bliss? When we experience wisdom, we experience
So
bliss.
when there are practices by which you generate a more blissful mind that is more subtle, and it is that blissful mind that is realizing emptiness, and that becomes a method by which you eventually attain the path of no more learning, the state of Buddhahood. Okay, so
I have one friend, name is Regina.
name is what?
Regina.
Eugenia. We're being asked to pray for Eugenia, Mr. Dasgupta, and Jiwan Shrestha. Okay, we shall read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He's completely liberated from extreme torment. He's liberated from craving. He's crossed over the river. He's perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavat, who arises in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at a perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and wisdom, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtues. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore, their fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. Now let us read the prayer for a swift return by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Losang Tubong Dorje Chang. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from but long ago the vast ways of inspirational prayers, the Lord of speech of the victorious Losang's teaching, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of form body that serve the welfare of others. Is that worthy of supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end to abandon the commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirvanakaya to swiftly return to the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, the full holder of the sage's teachings, and fulfilling Jhana. Return to the glory of Losang Tempe, magnificent truth of 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayana, and Sri Matrideni, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation fresh moonlight face.
Okay.
Thank you.
And